Hello, my name is Derek Millish, and today the question I'll be talking about is how is COVID-19 affecting children's social development? So the reason I chose this topic is my girlfriend come home from her second job, which is helping a small photography business, and they were taking photos at a regular client business, which is a daycare down the road. And this was the first time that they had been there all year due to them being closed all year for COVID. And she told me that the youngest class, which was a class full of 1-year-olds, were unable to get any usable pictures made because they were just so upset and screaming and crying, just unfamiliar with the territory of what's going on. And just my girlfriend kind of linked it with them not having any social interaction for all year, and them being so young. That's just when they're developing all those social interaction skills. So it had occurred to me that I hadn't really thought about this, but when you're young and you go to daycare or you're interacting with other kids all day, you develop social interaction skills even if you don't intend to. And these students just didn't have the privilege of doing that. And so today I did a little bit of research, and here's what I found. There are two theories that can help children learn social skills that I'm going to be focusing on today, as they apply to what COVID has really taken away from students. And that is the social learning theory and the behavioral development theory. Now, both of these theories were first brought up by Dr. Payal Kohli in a YouTube video that I watched where she was interviewed by a news reporter. So the social learning, and I had to go online to learn a little bit more about each theory because she only talked about how they relate to COVID. So the social learning theory is a theory developed by Albert Bandura, and he says that we learn as a result of direct exposure to the environment through processes of association and reinforcement. This is from an article from verywellmind.com by Kendra Cherry. And basically, in simpler terms, it just means that we learn by observing our peers, and more importantly, children, like toddlers, they learn by observing peers and adults based off of the emotions and facial expressions we make. It teaches them emotions and facial expressions so that they have an understanding of when to use certain emotions and things like that. This is kind of, in adult terms, an example would be if you had never swung a baseball bat in your life, but if somebody put a ball on a tee and gave you a bat, you would know what to do because you've seen baseball before, you've seen somebody play baseball. And then the second theory is behavioral development theory, and this is also based off of association and reinforcement. However, this is more targeted towards behavior instead of social skills, and more specifically, it's tailored towards group settings, large or small group settings. The reinforcement that is highlighted in the social learning theory is the reinforcement of seeing like a shocked event and then that person displaying a shocked look on their face. Like that's the reinforcement you're looking for when talking about the social learning theory. But the reinforcement you're looking for in the behavioral development theory is based off of rewards and discipline and like timeout. So, for example, like when I was in school, in kindergarten, I remember we had our like name cards posted on the wall, and we had 3 paper clips attached to name cards. And anytime you acted out of character or misbehaved, 1 paper clip got removed from your name card. And at the end of the day, if all 3 were gone, then you didn't get a reward. So it's the same idea there as teaching kids right from wrong, and what if you do wrong, then you'll be punished for it. And it teaches students how to think about the goals of the group rather than to just think of themselves in a classroom setting. So how do these theories and COVID-19 correlate? So COVID-19 affects these theories, one, with increased isolation. So there's just less opportunities for students to observe peers and their facial expressions and to gain the diversity of different facial expressions with different people that you would use in real life situations. So they're at home seeing their parents and learning social skills from their parents, but that is not helping them in the real world, as social interaction with strangers and social interaction with your parents are very different concepts. Also, when they are in public, most of the facial expressions that they're seeing are through masks, and for especially like toddler age children, it's very hard to interpret maybe their parents' facial expressions at home without a mask on versus going to a store and seeing that same expression through a mask. It may confuse the child, and it would definitely throw their development off course. And then lastly, small or no group activities. So this definitely affects the behavioral development theory, in that they don't have any sort of group training right now. And I think this is the biggest one that affected my girlfriend at the at the photo session at the daycare, is these students that are 1 year old, have never had to work in a group before or be around other children. So when they got into an unfamiliar territory, which was probably where the photos were being taken, all the lights and the big camera and the unfamiliar people, they were just super uncomfortable, wouldn't have it, and that's why it really affected them. So yeah, let's move on. What age groups are affected the most? According to Dr. Coley, all age groups are affected, but the two that they're concerned about are the two extreme age groups, and that is the toddlers and the teens. So toddlers are learning facial expressions and emotions for the very first time, and so it's important that they get started on it as early as possible so that their development is not delayed later. And then also teens are learning it for the second time, but they're learning it as an adult, and they're trying to transition from being a child to an adult, and definitely things change during that time, and it is a weird time to go through a pandemic and have interaction stripped away from you. What type of long-term effects can distancing have on children? So according to Dr. Coley, short-term isolation can have a very temporary effect on children. So this is good news, that no known long-term effects have been linked so far to children being less interactive during COVID. However, if the isolation lasts for like over a year to several years, and in some states, in some counties in Georgia, the students aren't going back to school yet. I know in my county they are, and so a lot of students are getting that interaction again. It's still through masks and things like that, but it's a little bit better than not having it at all. But some counties are not going back to school yet, so if this lasts over a year to several years, then it is possible that the students will start seeing long-term effects that will take a lot longer to correct. And then one thing that Dr. Coley mentioned is that if you have a child and you are worried about their progression during this time, there is a way that you can monitor this, and that is by going to the American Academy of Pediatrics website and comparing your child's progress to the milestones on the website. For example, like if you have a toddler, you want to look at milestones for toddlers, and if your child has any sort of gap, or you're concerned with where your child is compared to what the website states they should be at, you'll want to talk to a pediatrician or a health professional basically on how to handle that situation. Next slide is my sources. I hope this was informative, and thank you for watching.